Hi, welcome back to my channel. It's episode 2. So you already noticed that the sound is much better. The audio improvement was something that I wanted to work on after the first video. It turns out that the whole time the audio was just recording on the microphone on my phone. So the quality of the sound was obviously not so great, but because I got myself a new microphone for this channel, I hope you guys be able to hear my voice a lot better. That said, today I'm sitting here instead of my lounge chair in this corner right next to my door. This is actually where I sit down to put socks on before I go out, and it's kind of like a focal point where this wall and this part of the room meet. I'm sitting here because this very corner has a history of improvement in that short time I've been living in this apartment. This room has a really high ceiling, standing at 310 centimeters tall. It is by far one of the tallest rooms I've ever lived in, and I lived in a lot of different rooms, as you guys might have as well. The problem with it is that because the room was an addition, the entire building was an addition to the original building, this room actually has no ornamentation. There's no rosette, no waistcoat, no molding or crown molding. So it was like a barren box, nowhere for your eyes to go. And that doesn't really feel that cozy, and I wanted a cozy room. I still wanted that airy, free space up top, but I also wanted this cozy and grounded feel for the space that I would actually occupy at my eye level as well. So how do I tackle this problem? I don't know if I came across so coherent in my first video, but I see design as a problem-solving process. There is this issue with this room that this is too boxy and there's nothing that really draws your eyes to, and I wanted to give it architectural element or style, but at the same time, I didn't want to spend too much money on it. I didn't know how long I was going to live in this apartment, for one, and two, I didn't have a lot of money. I just moved from New York and I spent so much money in New York, and I didn't have a job at the time. So dropping a couple $1,000 on a room that I wasn't even going to live for long sounded very wasteful. And on top of that, if I can change something about the room without using new resources or consuming more, that's something that I would do. When you are shopping for your furniture in the secondhand market, you will find a lot of IKEA stuff. It's very cheap. You can easily find IKEA furniture is generally not very ornate, so you can easily just adopt it into your room. I don't really think that IKEA product, or at least the products that I made these days, are very good quality. After several years or even less, they would start to disintegrate, so people just get rid of them. So very cheap as well in the secondhand market. And I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to save money, but also quickly and cheaply furnish my new apartment. That said, when I got these pieces of furniture, they were just very disparate. They didn't really have a lot in common. When that happens, your space could look just really tacky sometimes. It could also be just too busy. There's a lot of information that you process that doesn't really help feeling so cozy at home. So I took it upon myself to transform the room. And one thing that I could do was painting the room. Generally, when you want to paint a wall, it is a good idea to use a color to accentuate a feature in your room, whether that be this like arch wall in this wall or a structure element that divides the wall, like a waistcoat, or even like round molding. Anything that has a structural element is a good place to paint to give your room more definition. But because my room didn't have any structure element, as this was an afterthought or an addition to the original building, it was just one big box. So when I wanted to paint the room, I didn't want to paint the entire room because one, that would be very expensive, because paints are very expensive if you didn't know. and two, I felt like that would be too overwhelming. But with such a high ceiling, tall walls in this room, I thought maybe I could cut the room in half and paint the bottom half in some color and leave the top half in the original white color. I did consider different options for color on my wall because the room already came with this yellow orangey wood floor, which is nice. I know it's a luxury, but I also wanted to introduce a lot of shades of orange, which is my favorite color. But then that would quickly become too orangey. I mean, the floor is orange, and I wanted a lot of different shades of wood, which is naturally yellow and orange. So I needed something that could contrast this ocean, super orange. The candidate for the color of the wall were green, blue, and maybe faded purple. But I eventually landed on blue because my friend actually had a free tub of paint that he could offer, and it was this shade of turquoise. And I just mixed a different color to get what I want. And that's how I ended up with the color of my room. And in the hindsight, I think it was a really good idea because green and orange combination could be a little too thematic. Sometimes it could be too autumny, if you know what I mean. But blue and orange actually sit on the opposite side on the color wheel, so it is a great contrast. But if I could make them somehow warmer, then it could actually turn the room very cozy without so much contrast. So that's how I decided on the color. But how did I decide the level of the color divide on my walls? As you can see, I decided based on this piece of furniture right here. And that actually is about 100 centimeters tall. That happened to be the right height that really ties to all the other low sitting or desk space or even my bed height. This was fished out of somebody's cellar for free, and it was in really, really bad shape. And it was completely black, as you can still see in the doorknob, which was fine, but against a yellow wall, because this wall used to be a canary yellow, it just stood out so much, and it accentuated all the different styles of furniture that I had in this room. And I sat with it for some time, and when I started painting the room, I decided to paint the drawer as well. If I could paint the wall along with the furniture, I can add some of the character, some of the structure element back into the apartment without actually having to spend thousands of dollars to put actual architectural element into the space. Now, like I said, when you want to paint the walls or when you start painting your room, it is a good idea to accentuate certain architectural features. Without it, it kind of looks a little bit odd. We all remember that trend. I don't know, it was like 2010 or something, like everyone was doing this accent wall, and then they were doing this like arch shape behind the bed, or all these like geometric shapes that doesn't show any pre-existing structure but trying to introduce something that's not there, and it looks frankly a little bit odd. And I think Noah Daniel, he is one of my favorite interior designer content creator on YouTube on this platform. He's really passionate about it. I think in one of his videos, he talks about the trends, the interior design trends that he hates so much. And I frankly agree with him. I think the reason why just painting the wall and like drawing a shape on the wall where there is no architectural element is because when you do it, it does not have any depth to the space. When it's just a line on the wall and there's nothing really that signifies the division, your eyes perceive the differences, but there is no depth of the structural differences. If I painted my furniture, especially this chest of drawers, I could actually introduce that. It already has some shape and a mass, and it was already going into this pre-existing archway. By painting the chest of drawer, I am bringing attention to some interesting or noticeable structure. This actually provided a benchmark for me to land a line along the wall. And this wasn't the only structure element that I tried to introduce in this room. You've probably seen in my first video as well, there's a bar shelf. And the color divide goes just under the bar shelf. It's also lit from both above and below to accentuate this structure element. So instead of just painting the entire room in one color, I divided the room, but I introduced structure elements that were not original to the room through furniture. And this cut line also kind of makes all the other furniture more snug. It makes it feel like the room is breathing and hugging you at the same time. For instance, the bed and the sofa sits just below this color divide. My bed has a little tiny headboard that doesn't really support much. This color contrast between my bedding and the color actually really accentuate the low setting of the bed. And also the sofa comes just below, which kind of ties everything together. All the low sitting areas feel a lot more cohesive and cozier because I have this color divide. But again, if I didn't try to introduce different architectural elements throughout the room, this could have looked a bit weird. To be honest though, if I had money, I would have spent the money to maybe put paneling around the room to give it more interesting architectural features. But like I said, I didn't want to spend too much money in renovating this apartment. Also sustainably. I mean, if I can make it happen without having to use more resources or spending too much money, sounded great. If you are a follower of interior design in recent time, you will see a lot of the content creators talking about color drenching and all that. Color drenching makes sense because it kind of blurs the line between your walls, your floors, your ceiling, not just in one color, but you can also use two different colors to completely enrapture the entire room in certain number of colors. And that kind of gives you this softer edges or boundaries and color of your choice. It could actually expand the boundaries of your room, making it feel a bit spacious or cozier. I get it. But for me, that would have been a lot of paint. And paints are expensive too. So I had to come up with the solution to save money, but also make my room feel cozier. Like I said, I was just getting the next cheapest piece of furniture to furnish my apartment. So not everything was perfectly aligned. My approach, my solution to this room's problem actually created other issues along the line. Number one was Kallax unit. The Kallax unit that I turned into an open shelf / TV unit. If you look at the wall, there is the color divide that goes just below the existing shelf, and it just doesn't perfectly align, and that drives me nuts. I do have a mini solution for this. I think I'm going to install a shelf where the line is so that at least visually it doesn't look like it's misaligned. So that would be an easy fix. I just need to get around to it, but I'm, lazy. There was a bigger problem. So the reason why I'm sitting here is because I wanted to bring your attention to this spot. When I painted the room first, it was painted all around. Bottom third was painted. So that means this wall, you can't really see from the camera. I can still see the line where I painted the wall here, but I painted over with the same white. That wasn't really a big problem when I didn't have a lot of furniture and my room didn't have a lot of interesting information for my eyes to digest and process. But as my personal effects and furniture collection grew, it just started to look a little odd. It was clashing with the door and it was clashing with the closet I have. So I sat on my couch and looked at the door. And at first I didn't know what the problem was. I thought the problem was that the door just carries so much energy and it's yellow, oakish kind of color. It's a kind of similar color to the floor and there's a lot of wood furniture in my apartment. So I thought the door was the problem and I was so ready to just rip the door out or maybe paint it over. But that seemed so wasteful. And also, it's not my door, so I didn't really want to do things that is irreversible to the room. So I was raking my brain and probably spent several weeks just looking at this corner of the room, thinking what the problem was. And it occurred to me that maybe it was the balance and the hierarchy and the composition from that view. And I started photoshopping. That's my kind of design process. And when I have hard time imagining and seeing, I start photoshopping on my iPad. I started painting my IKEA closet with the same color as this door. It looked like it kind of took away the presence from the door, at least from where I was sitting. If the material of the wardrobe is the same as the door, it echoes the shape of the door, and it kind of made more sense. At least the door is not standalone or an eyesore. But the problem with this solution was that, for one, I had to use contact paper, which isn't something that I'm enthusiastic about. I mean, like I also am hearing over and over again is authentic material. A lot of the content creators or a lot of the professionals talk about the authenticity of the material and so on and so forth. Contact paper itself is okay, but a contact paper that is pretending to be wood is not something cool. But putting wood veneer on existing IKEA furniture, that is a lot more than I can chew. So that was a no-go. And I thought maybe I could just paint it, but that also, I need to buy a new color. I need to color match perfectly, and that's also just so much work. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to put in that much effort into making this solution work. So I spent another couple of weeks just looking at it and photoshopping, and then it clicked. I was sitting in the exact same spot, looking at this same view, realized that maybe it isn't the door. Maybe it's the walls that's bothering me so much. So again, I grabbed my iPad and started painting the wall white. And voila, that fixed the problem. And the next day, I grabbed that white paint that I used in the rest of the room from the cellar and painted it. But I didn't want to get rid of the color divide entirely. As I said, I already introduced a lot of architectural element, and it really gives the room more cohesion and cozy vibes. When the color is cutting through a big chunk of furniture like my wardrobe and my door, that's where I had some issues. So I decided to paint this side of the room back to white and around the corner on the right side of the window. The other side still painted and with the color divide has this effect of cohesion and coziness. I was able to give more definition to the room because now there is some division in the backdrop, which kind of accentuates the walls that are painted even more. And I really like that solution. I don't know. I think it's kind of cute. What do you guys think? Maybe you still think that it's still just a line on the wall. It doesn't really change anything. You're entitled to your opinion. I think it makes my room a lot more cozier. And even if you don't have a lot of money to actually introduce new structural elements in your apartment, if you do have money and if you're happy to spend it, I support you, but I didn't. And this was a perfect solution for my problem, and I'm happy with those results. I hope this was a fun topic for you. I had a lot of fun talking about this topic because I don't know if it comes through the screen, but I was really passionate about this. I'm a really fussy person. Sometimes the little things could send me off like David on Schitt's Creek, but I try to take more mature approach to problems and actually solve problem. I'm actually working on a few other projects that I want to feature on my channel. Recently, one of my flatmates moved out and we decided to not find another flatmate and turn the room into a dining slash guest room. I am so excited to feature that transformation with you guys. So hang tight, it's gonna take some time. I'm already on Kleinanzeigen and Facebook Marketplace to find the pieces of furniture that I want to introduce, and I also want to introduce more structure to the room as well. It's so much fun. I think I like doing this. I think I like flipping houses and apartments or space. Hi, I'm Yohan. I like talking about space, whether that be my own space, your space, spaces in films and TV shows, space in general. I like talking about how the space make you feel certain things, how to transform space within your means. If that sounds something that you'd be interested, please subscribe, like the video, and leave in the comment what you thought about my design process, or what problems you may or may not have that I might be able to think about or talk about in my next upcoming videos. So that's it for me tonight. Getting better at this, you guys. So bear with me. This is a learning curve for me. It took me so many trials in my first video. I may have had another video before this one, but at least I managed to film this video in one sitting. I'll try to give you more consistent, more curated nerdy chat next time. See you next time. Ciao!